Week Hero Class 2 begins with Yun Si-yoon talking to a psychiatrist about his insomnia. He is unable to sleep at night as he keeps having bad dreams about what happened to his friend Suho, who is still in a coma. Si-yoon attends a new school, Eunjang High School. It is as chaotic as his last school. Rumors are running around the school, saying that he killed someone from his previous school, hence the transfer. Now, most of the boys are afraid of him, and they stay out of his way. Hyoman is the school's bully, and his lackey is CEO Juntae. Juntae runs around the school delivering snacks to students under Hyoman's orders. Juntae has a list of tasks to be completed given by Hyoman, and among them is to steal phones from all his classmates. Hyoman checks the ledger by the end of the school day and sees that Juntae has marked Si-yoon as not to be messed with. Hyoman gets furious, beats up Juntae, and orders him to steal Si-yoon's phone by the end of the day. Juntae is the class monitor. The school's policy is that students hand in their phones at the start of the school day, which are returned at the end of the school day. Later that day, when Juntae picks up the phones from the teacher, he steals Si-yoon's phone and hands it over to Hyoman. Juntae pretends like he has no idea what happened to Si-yoon's phone when he asks about it. However, Juntae feels guilty when Si-yoon fails to make any fuss about his lost phone. He follows Si-yoon after class, trying to apologize for the lost phone. Si-yoon knows about Juntae stealing phones, so he calls Juntae a coward for thinking he is dumb. That evening, Si-yoon's mother accompanies him to buy a new phone. They talk about soon going abroad for studies, and she worries about not spending sufficient time with him. The next morning, Si-yoon visits Suho at the hospital. Suho is still in a coma. Si-yoon tells him about not being able to sleep and about calling Juntae a coward. However, Si-yoon thinks he is a bigger coward than Juntae. Technically, Si-yoon is writing messages to Suho while watching him at the hospital. At school, he witnesses Hyoman and the gang of bullies torture Juntae on the school stairs. He thinks back to what happened at his last school. For a split second, Si-yoon imagines beating up the bullies. Si-yoon does not act out his thoughts and just passes the bullies on his way to class. Juntae approaches Si-yoon at lunchtime. He brings Si-yoon a snack and a drink since he sleeps through lunchtime. Juntae confesses to stealing phones and giving them to Hyoman. Juntae says he does that because he has no choice. Juntae has been thinking about not wanting to be a coward anymore and asks Si-yoon to teach him. Si-yoon tells Juntae about Newton's third law. Without any action, there won't be a reaction. On his way home, Juntae researches Newton's law of motion. When one of the bullies calls, Si-yoon does not answer. The bullies are having drinks at a bar and want Juntae to pay. When he does not answer, Hyoman offers to buy the drinks. Hyoman then leaves because he has to make a follow-up on the gang joining a union. It turns out that the union is a gang of school bullies led by Songji. Hyoman wants to become part of the gang. Songji is at a cyber cafe playing games. Hyoman asks for more to deliver the current task, steal 100 phones. At the cafe, an older man speaks badly about Songji, calling him a high school kid. Songji bashes his head into the table with a huge grin on his face. Hyoman gets scared and hurriedly leaves the internet cafe. Juntae arrives at school early the following morning. From his understanding of Newton's first law of motion, he breaks into the cabinets where Hyoman's gang keeps all the stolen phones. Juntae returns all the phones, leaving apology notes for each student. Juntae then takes a nap. When Si-yoon arrives at school later, he overhears students talking about Juntae returning all phones. After learning about Juntae returning phones, Hyoman angrily marches to his classroom. Juntae knew this would happen, so he put a bun in his mouth as a mouth guard and took off his glasses. Juntae tries to stand up to Hyoman, but he ends up getting beaten up badly. Si-yoon watches silently as the events unfold. All these cause Si-yoon to think back on Suho. He remembers the first time Suho stopped him from hitting a guy with a chair. So, when Hyoman tries to use a chair on Juntae, who is already helpless on the ground, Si-yoon steps in. We are introduced to two new characters, Park Baku and Go Hyun-tak. The two are members of the school basketball team, and while the fight between Si-yoon and Hyoman continues in Class 4, Hyun-tak and his friends complain about not being able to join the basketball tournament following Baku's suspension. On his way to confront a teacher about the basketball tournament, Hyun-tak catches on to the commotion and follows the onlookers to Class 4. Meanwhile, Si-yoon lets Hyoman punch him repeatedly without fighting back. Si-yoon dodges one of Hyoman's punches, and he loses it. Hyun-tak steps in and stops Hyoman. Hyoman and Hyun-tak start bickering, and Hyoman calls Hyun-tak Baku's minion. Hyun-tak gets angry and does a karate back kick that only touches Hyoman's nose. Hyoman stands speechless, shivering from fear. Hyun-tak reminds Hyoman that he can take him down with just one kick. Hyoman yells some more and leaves the classroom. Si-yoon ignores Hyun-tak and goes to help Juntae to the nurse's office. Juntae refuses to go to the nurse's office. He says that they do not go to the nurse's office because the nurse makes a big deal and Hyoman is called to the office. Hyoman then beats them up again, making it a vicious cycle. Seun asks Juntae why he returned the phones, and he says it is because of Newton's third law. Seun wants to explain that is not what the law meant, but Juntae's friends rush in to check up on him. Seun quietly leaves. Later, Hyuntak overhears students gossiping about Seun. Hyuntak shows interest, and they tell him about what Seun had done in his old school. Hyuntak thinks the group of smoking delinquents are just making it up. However, Hyuntak's curiosity about Seun continues. Juntae runs after Seun after school and gives him some lutein and magnesium pills. Juntae explains that lutein can help with concentration, while magnesium helps with sleep. Juntae thanks Seun for his help and leaves. Later that night, Seun decides to take Juntae's pills instead of his usual sleeping pills. The next day, Seun is alert at school and joins Juntae for lunch. He thanks Juntae for the pills. After lunch, they hang out, watching Hyuntak and his friends play basketball. Hyoman approaches them, making it seem like they are having a friendly conversation. Hyoman tells Seun that Hyuntak plans to beat him up. Seun glares at Hyuntak and catches his attention. Hyoman then tells Hyuntak that he and Seun have become close friends. Juntae tells Seun he is heading to the washroom before the 5th period. Hyoman's gang pulls him away. Meanwhile, when Hyuntak and his friends leave their locker rooms after lunch break, Hyoman tosses up the place. Juntae does not return to class from 5th grade until the end of the school day. Hyoman approaches Seun and tells him that Hyuntak is dragging Juntae to their gym room. Seun finds Juntae in one of the lockers. He had been locked in since lunch break. Seun knows it is Hyoman's doing. However, when Hyuntak is told that Seun is tossing up the club room and wants to fight him, he angrily rushes over. He sees Seun leaving the club room and concludes that it was he who destroyed the place. Meanwhile, Hyoman is making plans with his gang on how to take advantage of the fight he has orchestrated between Hyuntak and Seun. On the way home, Seun uses the dangerous shortcut where the bullies hang out. Seun is aware of what might happen and used that path on purpose, saying a detour would be a waste of time. As he expected, Hyuntak confronts Seun. Seun knows Hyuntak will not listen, so he asks him to fight. Hyuntak calls Seun a hypocrite who walks around like a saint while he destroys someone's life in his last school. Hyuntak talks about Seun putting Suho in a coma, which aggravates him. The two get into a fierce fight. Soon after, Hyoman and his minions show up. Hyuntak and Seun join forces to fight the bullies, but they are outnumbered. Suddenly, Park Baku shows up. The bullies cower in his presence. Hyoman drops the baseball bat he was about to hit Seun with. He tries pleading with Baku. Baku slum dunks his basketball into Hyoman's head, and he faints. Seun is impressed by Baku's accuracy. Baku asks who Seun is since he has never seen him before. Seun ignores him. Baku thinks that Seun has some guts. We see Baku reminding the bullies of his policy that when in the Yujang High School uniform, no fighting is allowed. Baku then sends the bullies away. Hyuntak apologizes to Seun for misunderstanding his intentions. Seun walks away without a word, and Juntae runs after him. Juntae tries to comfort Seun about the rumors that he ruined someone's life. Seun tells Juntae that whatever the students say is not a rumor, and that is why he never wants to fight with the other students. Baku returns to school the next day from suspension. He excitedly greets other students as he makes his way to class. In class, Baku has a serious discussion with Hyuntak about playing a practice game match with Ganghack High. Hyuntak is afraid that the team members will be hurt because the Ganghack team plays basketball with mixed martial art. Hyuntak, Baku, Juntae, and Seun are called to the office. They are accused of beating up everyone in Hyoman's group. The teacher punishes them by volunteering over the weekend. Hyuntak tries to protest, saying that Hyoman's group should be punished too, since they started the whole thing. However, the teacher is not about to debate with them. Juntae tells Seun about the union. A group of bullies from neighboring schools, including Yeol High, Ganghack High, Yosung High, and others, joined together to form one gang to do business. Hyoman wanted to become part of the gang. However, Baku stopped him and helped Yujang High students from getting into fights. The gang members from a union got angry and started attacking any student they saw wearing Yujang's uniform and taking their money. Baku got angry and beat up everyone from the union. Juntae says that no one in the union stood a chance against Baku. The union leaders get their gang members to gang up on Hyojin for failing to secure Yujang High. Hyoman is dragged to see the union leader Baekjin. Hyoman tries to plead for some more time to handle the situation, but Songji is on the phone, thinks that with Baku around, they will not secure the territory. Baekjin tells him that they should pay a visit to Baku. Over the weekend, Seun starts to bond with Baku, Hyuntak, and Juntae as they volunteer. Baku's odd mannerisms and the constant bickering with Hyuntak makes Seun smile. Over lunchtime, the bickering leads to them accidentally spilling sauce on Seun's hoodie. Seun steps out to the washroom to clean up, where he finds Songji waiting outside. Songji takes a photo of Seun. He gets angry when Seun shows no fear but keeps staring him in the eyes. Sung Jae tries to attack Seun, but he expertly dodges his punches. Sung Jae decides to give up when he sees Seun eyeing a flower pot nearby. Once outside the restroom, Sung Jae runs into Baku. He mentions that Baku and Baekjin should just make up so he stops getting caught between their lovers' quarrel. Some more information on Baekjin. He is the top student at Yeol High, and he gets an academic award at a school assembly. During self-study, money keeps getting into his account while he tries to tackle some math questions. Later, he gets a call from Songmak updating him that all the money has been deposited. Songmak also tells Baekjin that Hyoman asked to meet up. Baekjin heads out to the meetup location. Hyoman shows up with his minions ready to ambush Baekjin. They think that Baekjin is not a fighter since he is an excellent student. Hyoman even wonders how he became a gang leader. Baekjin proves that he is not to be trifled with by beating all the bullies to a pulp. After volunteering, Hyuntak and Juntae accompany Baku to his father's restaurant for some chicken. Meanwhile, Seun visits his friend Suho at the hospital. Baku calls him to ask if he got home safe, since he was worried about Sung Ji following him. Seun says he got home safe. Seun writes a message to Suho as he does every time he visits to update him about his day. Just then, Sung-ji shows up outside Suho's room. Seun is livid, especially when Sung-ji talks about how Seun puts Suho in a coma. Sung-ji casually asks Seun to follow him outside. He says that Seun is the type of kid he likes to beat up. Sung-ji does not want them to disturb Suho's sleep. Sung-ji takes Seun all the way to a bowling alley and shows him to Baekjin's office. Baekjin does not even look up and asks Seun to wait. However, Seun is not here to talk, but to give them a warning. Seun warns Baekjin never to let his people show up around Suho, or he will kill them all. Seun then helps Baekjin with a math question he was struggling with before turning to leave. Baekjin does not argue, but asks Seun to keep his word and stop hanging around Baku. Baekjin sends some of his boys to mess with Baku's father. Baku receives a call later that night from a neighbor asking him to hurry to the restaurant to calm down his father. The boys sent by Baekjin used fake identity cards to buy alcohol at Baku's dad's restaurant. They then called the police, claiming that Baku's father sold alcohol to minors. Baekjin then calls Baku, sends him an address, and asks to meet the next day. The next day, Seun tells Baku that he no longer wants to hang around them. He prefers being alone and does not want to be pulled into the conflict between Baku and Baekjin. At the end of the school day, Seun leaves before everyone else to head to cram school. Baku also excuses himself by lying that he has a date, but he is going out to meet with Baekjin. Meanwhile, Sung Jae and a group of the Union Gang are tasked with hunting down Hyuntak, Juntae, and Seun. Seun meets up with a group from Ganghak High, but they let him go since Baekjin had said he is to be left alone. Hyuntak gives Juntae a chance to escape. Two boys chase after him, while Sung Jae and another boy deal with Hyuntak. Juntae manages to escape from his pursuers long enough to give Seun a call. His pursuers catch up to him while on a call with Seun. Although Juntae tells Seun to stay away, Seun still chooses to rush back to his aid. Meanwhile, Baku arrives at the bowling alley. A group of union members try to stop him downstairs, but he quickly manages to scare them into getting directions to Baekjin's office. Baekjin insists that Baku should join the union. He says that he has a plan to turn it into a lucrative business once they graduate. Baku calls Baekjin an idiot, saying that he will never join his gang. Baekjin reminds Baku that he is the idiot, and Baku realizes that the meeting was just to lure him away so the gang could get to Hyuntak. Baku wants to beat up Baekjin, but he chooses not to. On the way out, a group of union gang members try to stop Baku, but they are no match for him. Baekjin leaves the office and lets Baku go. However, Baku tells not to get confused. It is he, Baku, who chose not to kill all the union members. Baku tries to rush to Hyuntak's rescue. Meanwhile, Sung Ji-e is having a field day beating up Hyuntak while the other gang members livestream the fight. Juntae helplessly watches on the sidelines. Seun gets the location of the fight from some boys he passes. He rushes to the rooftop just as Sung Ji-e gets ready to take a victory photograph of the battered-up Hyuntak and Juntae. Seun wastes no time and goes after Sung Ji. The two get into a serious fight. Although Sung Ji-e can throw a punch better than Seun, Seun is ruthless in his attacks. His goal is to incapacitate Sung Ji-e, and he does so using Sung Ji-e's glasses. Seun breaks Sung Ji-e's glasses to stab Sung Ji-e's foot. The fight continues, and Sung Ji-e seems excited. No matter how hard he beats Seun, he keeps getting up, and his glare never shows fear. Sung Ji-e resolves to give Seun a fatal blow. He attacks before Sung Ji-e can, and they both end up on the ground, exhausted. Sirens are heard in the distance. Just then, Baku arrives at the rooftop. He rushes to check up on Seun, who mistakes him for Suho. Seun tells Suho that he got into another fight and apologizes and then passes out.